Hey guys, welcome to the start of a series called El Cine, where I review Spanish-language cinema, movies, and media, with a heavy emphasis on Cuban media, because that is what I want to start with. Today I want to review the film La Muerte de un Burocrata, aka The Death of a Bureaucrat. So what is The Death of a Bureaucrat? Is it a mix of black comedy, third cinema, animation, and a tribute to the pioneers of cinema? It is a film that makes fun of the communist bureaucracy and the red tape a nephew has to go through so that his tia can get her husband's pension and the body can be finally properly buried. The Death of a Bureaucrat is such a good film because even though it was made in such a specific movement of Latin American cinema, its underlying themes are undoubtedly universal and still apply today. To Cuba's unfortunate political circumstance, to the nuisance of bureaucracy, and overall relates to real-life troubles over 60 years later, whether you live in Cuba or not. The film was directed by Cuban filmmaker Tomas Gutierrez Alea, who is one of the most well-known Cuban filmmakers of all time, which I'll probably do a video about his career at another time. Some of his work includes Memorias de Subdesarrollo, Memories of Underdevelopment, which was the first film to play in the United States after the Cuban Revolution, and Fresa y Chocolate, an amazing film from the 90s that was the first Cuban film to be nominated for an Academy Award. So I've said before that The Death of a Bureaucrat is a third cinema film. Well, what is a third cinema film? I'm not going to go too far into it, but it was part of a Latin American film wave in the 60s to 70s that opposes neocolonialism, the capitalist system, and the Hollywood model of cinema of using entertainment to make money. Tomas goes heavy into his subtle references, and honestly you should rewatch the movie a few times to really catch them all, but he directly tries to tell his audience through signs and set design of the bureaucracy offices such as Kill Bureaucracy or Estoy emulando, translating to I'm emulating, which refers to his images to pioneers of cinema to help get his political message across. This moves on to distribution. Surprisingly, Fidel Castro had agreed to release the film, even though he is infamous in Cuba for throwing oppressors of the revolution in jail, let alone let media exemplifying discontent with the Cuban government to be released in an entire feature film. However, the film was stuck in Cuba for a while, and somehow Tomas smuggled it out of Cuba. Not only did Fidel allow the film to be released, but he let Tomas be a part of the cinematographic department in the new revolutionary government within the Dirección de Cultura de Ejército Rebelde, or also known as the Cultural Division of the Rebel Army, which was the ancestor of what would eventually become the Instituto Cubano del Arte y la Industria Cinematográficos, which later on I will probably do a video on ICAIC itself. Now talking about the style of The Death of a Bureaucrat, it was very ahead of its time, not only because of when it was made, but in context that it was made in the first years of the Cuban Revolution, where resources for filmmaking were scarce, let alone basic necessities such as food. However, this film made strides for Cuban cinema. It took a very solemn topic, such as the nuisance of bureaucracy getting in the way of actually leading a nation forward, such as not being able to properly put a body in the ground, and makes humor out of it. The parodying nature of this tiny biography towards the beginning of the film of a factory worker who fell into the maquinaria, displayed by an animation, shows the lengths Tomas went to make such plight seem like a big joke. Although La Muerte fell under the definition of a third cinema film with its heavy political message, Tomas had a lot of references to American film, along with other big film pioneers building up to that moment. The film's full credits at the very beginning and signed by the director read, "This film is dedicated to Luis Buñuel, Oliver Hardy, Stan Laurel, Ingmar Bergman, Harold Lloyd, Akira Kurosawa, Orson Welles, Juan Carlos Tavio, Elia Kazan, Buster Keaton, Gene Vigo, Marilyn Monroe, and all those who, in one way or another, have taken part in the film industry since the days of Lumiere." However, it is also Fidel's acceptance of letting the film be released without censoring, and Tomas's many tributes to Hollywood that doesn't make this a hardcore third cinema film. The only parts of third cinema that it fulfills is it shows the lives of average Cubans dealing with the Cuban government, and it makes the audience think about the political situation. Overall, the film is great and you should watch it, although I cannot lie, it can get boring sometimes with the long talks about bureaucratic protocols. But I guess it's making its point. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and I hope I have time to make more, because there is seriously no reviews of Cuban movies, and I want to change that. Bye.
Francisco J. Pérez fue un Miguel Ángel para los humildes. Por eso no podía hacérsele mejor homenaje que el acordado por sus compañeros del consolidado una asamblea relanda.